Good evening. When it comes to local inequalities or global conflict, what do you think garners the most amount of attention towards your problem? One of the biggest ways to garner attention towards your problem is protesting. Protesting usually involves mass amounts of people coming together and advocating for a very specific cause to raise awareness and to inspire change. And usually these protests attract a lot of journalists who end up reporting about the protests and spreading awareness about the specific cause of the protest. And in history, one of the best ways that we've seen protests has inspired change, which is their end goal, is the civil rights movement of the mid 20th century, which involved racial minorities such as African Americans and Latinos coming together and raising awareness about racial inequality and advocating for racial equality. And while it's remembered mostly for the African American side of the civil rights movement, it is less likely remembered for the Latino side of the civil rights movement. Today I'll be talking about a journalist who was heavily involved in the Latino side of the civil rights movement, who attended a lot of peaceful protests, who ended up dying at one, and was a big person in reporting about the many issues that are going on within the Latino community. And this man is known as Ruben Salazar. Today I'll be talking about the early life, career, and death of Ruben Salazar. Beginning with his early life, Ruben Salazar was born in 1928 in El Paso, Texas. His early education, he went to Lamar School, and upon finishing Lamar School, he ended up attending Texas Western University, which he studied journalism. And upon finishing his time at school, he ended up writing for a small post known as Herald Post. And he was mostly interested in more obscure cases, and one of his major breaks in his early career was when his boss told him to act drunk and get arrested by the police, in which he ended up getting arrested and going to jail. While in jail, he suffered a lot of the inequalities that came with being a Latino in a jail. And he talked about a lot of neglect and mistreatment. He wrote a lot about the neglect and mistreatment. He befriended a couple people, one of them being a drug kingpin in one of these jails. And he also talked about the many other conditions in the jail, such as the smelly tanks that were full of mixtures of cotton and cement that he used as a cot to sleep in. And this filth also drove people, which he described as men killing themselves with liquor and drugs. He ended up publishing this piece, which was known as 25 Hours in Jail. I lived in a chamber of horrors, which raised awareness about which raised a lot of awareness about the conditions in the El Paso jail, while also humanizing drug users. And the drug kingpin he befriended in this jail, he ended up visiting her compound. And he also wrote about another piece known as the Dope Queen of the Border, which he visited this kingpin. He interviewed his family and talked a lot about even some of the drug users and humanized them a lot more. And this kind of humanization is very influential when you want to get people to care about the cause that you are going to raise awareness for, as if you humanize people and make them seem more appealing to care about, it's going to attract a lot more attention towards your cause, and therefore much more people will support whatever you're raising awareness for. And not only did this catch the attention of many people, it also caught the attention of the FBI, who began to create a file about him and follow him. After the FBI, it also aroused the attention of the LA Times, who sought after him to be a foreign correspondent and to be a journalist for the LA Times. And this type of awareness, and upon coming to the LA Times, he ended up writing one of his other major pieces, which was about the Latino community, known as Mexican Americans Move into a New Era of Political Awakening, which reported a lot about the rising amounts of Mexican American people moving to East Los Angeles and being more participated in civic life, such as voting and being more involved within the community, saying that most of them moved to East LA for a new life. They don't, and he himself doesn't know much about Mexico, but he wants to make East LA a much better place to live in now that he lives there. And not too long after he created this article, he ended up becoming a foreign correspondent for the LA Times, in which he reported a lot about the Vietnam War. And he wrote a lot about how different types of racial minorities were being drafted a lot more and dying in droves in the Vietnam War. And he himself also had a few close encounters with death in the Vietnam War. And and also, along with going to Vietnam, he also went to Mexico to report about the massacre of Tlatelolco. This massacre involved a mass group of peaceful. This massacre involved a peaceful protest, which had a bunch of Mexican university students protesting, to the Mexican government about for the better quality of life in Mexico, since it wasn't that good at that time, and most of these people were middle class workers and farmers, and the government didn't seem to care about how the quality of life was at the time. So they decided to have a peaceful protest at a university just to raise awareness. However, this aroused the attention of the National Guard in Mexico, and with the goals to disperse the crowd, they ended up opening fire and killing multiple students at this peaceful protest. And Ruben Salazar, while being a foreign correspondent for the LA Times, raised awareness for this issue, for this massacre, and upon seeing mass amounts of minorities being drafted to Vietnam and this massacre of peaceful protesters, ended up, especially of Latino descent, he ended up coming back to Los Angeles and made another piece known as Poor Chicanos and What Do They Want? And this one raised the question about identity for Latinos, like who, specifically Chicanos, like who were they, and what did they want, and why they can't be considered as Americans, even though they're a very growing group of people at the time, and how most of them, despite not being considered Americans, were here before colonization. And then this article then goes on to talk about a lot about the other racial disparities of Latinos. And then around this time also the LA blowouts of 1960 occurred, in which many East LA schools walked out in protest for better quality of education for all Latino students and other races as well. He mostly reported about the protests, which were mostly peaceful, and he even attended more anti-war protests, which then would end up trailing him to the end of his life. Prior to his death, he was intimidated by the LAPD in 1970 after being, while at his workplace at KMEX, which was a Spanish-speaking broadcast channel that talked a lot about Latino issues to other parts of the Latino community in Spanish. And he was reporting about police brutality, and the LAPD threatened him and told him not to report about about police brutality because it will diminish the reputation of the LAPD. And despite this intimidation, he ended up reporting about it anyway. And this is also very important for people who want to raise awareness for a specific problem, that despite the many bouts of intimidation that you get, you should still be passionate enough to have your voice heard by other people who really want to hear, no matter who's telling you not to. And in 1970, he attended a protest known as the Moratorium. The Moratorium was the biggest anti-war protest for Vietnam, against Vietnam, in East LA, and it was also a place where Latinos could share their heritage with others. And there were, during this peaceful protest for against the war in Vietnam, there was rumors that there was going to be mass looting, which ended up attracting the LAPD once again in riot gear. And thinking they're about to loot a liquor store, they ended up shooting a tear gas container into the crowd. This ended up possibly intentionally striking Ruben Salazar, killing him instantly. And upon his death, it raised a lot of awareness about journalists who attend peaceful protests and end up dying due to police brutality as well. And he was also rumored to, and also there was rumors that he was killed intentionally by the LAPD, and this rumor was greatly exacerbated by the coroner at the time not willing to release the cause of death of Ruben Salazar. And ever since, he has become a very big predominant martyr within the Latino community when it comes to peacefully protesting and also standing up and being passionate about your roots. And what I want you to take from this is that despite all the opposition that he got from police, the FBI trailing him, is that, if you want to stand up for a very specific problem, you should do it and be loud and proud about it. Get involved with the community and spread the word that you really want to spread to reach the people that really want to hear about it. And today is a very big time to make your voice heard about many different types of issues across the world that people are deciding to step up and speak out about. And today I want you to remember this hidden figure that is not given the attention he needs, and remember that you can report and easily peaceful protest and have your voice heard by many others, despite opposition from everybody. Thank you very much.